I'm Pat Torres. Welcome to The Story. We have a fascinating show for you tonight, and we're going to dive deep on our very first story. Many of you have asked us to explain House Bill 2002, which is part of the reason that Republicans have walked out in the Oregon Senate. One of its goals is to erase confusion over whether people 14 and younger can get an abortion without their parents' permission. And that makes it our very big story. Now, I know when I said Republican walkout, some of you rolled your eyes and some of you shouted, it's not about abortion, it's about bill summaries being easy to read in the legislature. I know, that is what the Republicans keep insisting it's really all about. But look, that's nonsense, because most, if not all of those bill summaries violate that easy to read rule, and it's probably been that way for years. The real issues are abortion and gender-affirming treatment. So tonight, we're going to tell you what current Oregon law states, what it doesn't, and how the bill would change that. Let's start with abortion. And from the get-go, I want to tell you this has been one of the most confusing things I've researched in a long time. I've talked with lots of different people. I thought I understood where things were, and then I've researched some more and got totally confused. And then I talked with more people. I've talked with lawmakers, lawyers, policy experts, all trying to sort this out for myself and for you. I do have it now, but I'm telling you, it was a long day and it took all day. When it comes to abortion, my question was simple. Can anyone at any age in Oregon get an abortion? The answer was simple as well. It's yes, as long as all of the medical care is done within state lines. But this is when it gets tricky. When a parent's permission is required, when is that for someone underage to get an abortion? Well, you'd think it's a quick task to find that one too. Just get the law and read it. But that, my friends, that is not the case here at all. Oregon's law, when it comes to the age of parental consent or permission for abortion under the age of 15, well, it's a mess. Let's start out with what we do know, though. Oregon Revised Statute 109.640 sets the age for consent for medical treatment or dental treatment at 15 years old. So what that means is that anyone 15 and older can agree to get any medical or dental treatment without telling their parents and without getting their permission. And yes, that does include abortions. Which might make you think, okay, 14 and younger apparently do need parental permission. Well, maybe, but maybe not. ORS 109.640 subsection 1 reads, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and naturopathic physicians may provide birth control information and services to any person without regard to the age of the person. So now you might be back to thinking, oh, okay, they do not need their parents' permission, no matter how young. But did you notice that line did not say anything either way about parents' permission? And that's led to a lot of confusion. On the website of the Oregon Health and Sciences University, under frequently asked questions about abortion, it clearly states that if you are 14 or younger, Oregon law requires you to get consent from a parent or guardian for medical care, including abortion. At OHSU, we can connect you with confidential help if getting consent is not an option for you. By the way, they provide a link to the law, which goes to a page that was, not found here on the Oregon Health Authority's website, which I'm just laughing because that's typical of the journey that I and now we have been on all day. But we're not giving up. Let's get some historical perspective and then we'll zoom back up to the current day. Historically, Oregon had several laws that were against abortion. In the 60s, anyone under 18 needed a parent's permission. In 71, the state let people 15 and older decide for themselves what medical care to get as long as it was not an abortion. And then Roe v. Wade happened in 1973, giving everyone the constitutional right to an abortion. Oregon's abortion laws were a mess, and the Attorney General back then said, listen, we're not going to enforce these things. 10 years later, in 1983, the Oregon legislature decided to try and fix things. They repealed that abortion law from the 60s requiring parental consent and notification, but they did not clarify whether it covered only people 15 and older or anyone at any age. Now, in states where a parent's permission was needed for a minor to get an abortion after Roe v. Wade, federal law required something called a judicial bypass system. That would allow the minor to ask a judge for permission if they could not get that permission from a parent for whatever reason. Oregon, though, never had a bypass system like that. which left many believing that no parental permission is required in Oregon for an abortion. You follow that? The absence of the judicial bypass in Oregon was proof to some that parental consent was not needed for someone at any age to get an abortion in Oregon. But then the Dobbs decision happened, overturning the constitutional right to an abortion, and suddenly Oregon's lack of clarity upended the understanding of abortion services for those 14 and younger in this state. Many people will tell you 14 and younger still have the right to an abortion without their parents' permission. But others, well respected like OHSU, will tell you no, state law requires the parents' permission for 14 and younger. So you see why it's so confusing? And by the way, if you're shocked to learn that many people believe under the current law, anyone at any age can get an abortion without parents' permission, well, listen, you're not alone. Here's what happened during a Ways and Means Committee hearing in mid-April. They were talking about HB 2002 when the question of parental notification came up. Republican Senator Tim Knopp is asking the question of a member of the Legislative Counsel's office. Those are the folks who are the lawyers for the legislature.
So in this bill, at what age can a child make the determination on their own without parental consent to have an abortion?
Chair Sanchez, Chair Steiner, Senator Knopp. Under the current law, it's not entirely clear what age a minor can make the determination to have an abortion without parental consent. Under House Bill 2002A, however, it's a minor of any age can make that determination.
So follow up, so a 10-year-old can make that decision on their own then?
No.
Chair Sanchez, Senator Steiner, yes.
10-year, no.
No.
10-year-old?
I didn't think so for that. I thought it was, okay.
15.
I'm looking it up. Okay.
Sorry, let me clarify, Rep. Sanchez, Senator Steiner, Senator Knopp. Under the House Bill 2002, a minor of any age can make reproductive health care decisions, and that includes undergoing an abortion.
Did you hear that gasp from various committee members? It shows you how confusing this is and how high pressure, high stakes it is. During that same hearing, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Steiner, who's a medical doctor herself and helped sponsor HB 2002, said that in cases where a minor child does get an abortion, police are notified and the Department of Human Services would be notified as well, and the child would be strongly encouraged to allow them to notify the parents. But her understanding of the law is if the child was pregnant through incest, for example, and the mother's not cooperating and protecting her, and it would be dangerous for the child for her parents to be notified, then notification is not required. And here's a letter from the only Republican in the House who voted for HB 2002. Charlie Conrad represents District 12, just west of Eugene. He wrote the letter to have a public record of his reasoning since he's kind of going against the party stance on this one. Actually, not kinda, totally. He writes that while he is cautious about the possibility of providing reproductive health services to minors without active involvement of their parents or guardians, this bill, he writes, does not change the treatment currently being provided. He goes on to write, this bill does not alter abortion services currently being provided, but instead codifies existing practices. Okay, so you still with me? Let's take a moment and recap here. First, there is no place in Oregon law that specifically says that anyone under 14 can get an abortion without their parents' permission. But it is pretty clear that 15 and older can get an abortion without their parents' permission. Now, let's take a look at the wording of the current law and how that would change under House Bill 2002. Remember, the current law, ORS 109.640 sub 1, reads a physician, physician assistant, nurse practitioner, or naturopath physician may provide birth control information and services to any person without regard to age. You'll notice it does not say anything there about parental permission. Under House Bill 2002, the law would change to read a minor of any age may give consent without the consent of a parent or guardian of the minor to receive reproductive health care information and services. A different section of the new law makes it clear one of those services is abortion. So, under the abortion section of Bill 2002, one of the big fights is to make it available to those under 14 without their parents' permission required. By the way, abortions for patients that young are rare, but not unheard of here in Oregon. The Oregon Health Authority has a dashboard for abortion stats in the state. The most recent totals are for the year 2021. 7,100 women had abortions over that period. Of those, 14 patients were younger than the age of 15. So, to summarize, when it comes to abortion, HB 2002 puts language in the bill making it crystal clear that abortion is one of the things a doctor or healthcare provider can do for someone 14 and younger without permission from the patient's parent. It was already treated that way by many in Oregon before the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, but after that ruling, things are kind of up in the air. HB 2002 would also require community colleges, universities, and other higher ed institutions to provide students access to emergency contraception and medication abortion. All right, now let's turn to gender-affirming care, which is also part of that bill, HB 2002. In case you're unclear on what that means, according to the federal government's Office of Population Affairs and the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Health, gender-affirming care is a supportive form of health care. It consists of an array of services that may include medical, surgical, mental health, and non-medical services for transgender and non-binary people. According to HB 2002, gender-affirming treatment means basically what the federal law just said there. Now, in Oregon, state law does not currently require insurance companies to cover transgender care. But the state agency that regulates insurance companies has issued bulletins basically telling insurance companies, yeah, you should cover that. HB 2002 would put that requirement into the law and also lists a number of procedures that must be covered. According to the Nonpartisan Legislative Policy and Research Office in Salem, it would not apply to insurance companies that are not under state jurisdiction. So that includes things like Medicare and large companies that self-insure. Currently, gender-affirming care is treated as any medically necessary care. 15-year-olds and above do not need their parents' permission, but 14-year-olds and younger do need that permission. The bill does not change that. Finally, the bill protects healthcare providers who may be licensed in another state like Idaho and also licensed in Oregon. It forbids Oregon regulators or insurance companies from punishing them if they lose their license in that state for providing abortions or gender-affirming care. So that's something to remember as well. Now, here are the takeaways. HB 2002 explicitly puts into law a practice that was already understood by many to be legal in Oregon, allowing patients 14 and younger to get an abortion without parental consent. It also requires insurance companies to cover medically necessary transgender care. And it protects healthcare providers if they are sanctioned or prosecuted in other states for abortions or transgender care that they do here in Oregon. So there's a lot there. But what are your thoughts on all this? Let us know, will you? Send an email to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail. The phone number is 503-226-5090. I really look forward to hearing from you.
Up next on The Story, investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi is looking at pilot projects and campaigns to tackle Portland's homeless problem. He's asking a simple question: whatever happened to that? Tonight he's looking at a plan to create a big list of names of homeless people in the area in order to get them services they need. So what's the latest on that? Find out when The Story returns.
We've heard a lot of promises when it comes to tackling Portland's homeless problem. Decision makers often describe pilot projects, outreach campaigns, community investments. So to help keep tabs on things, investigative reporter Kyla Boshi is looking back at various proposals or projects to see where do things stand now. Tonight, Kyle brings us an update on a plan to track every homeless person in Portland by name.
To help solve Portland's growing homeless problem, local leaders hatched a plan to create a list by name of every person living on the street. Portland City Commissioner Dan Ryan first pitched the idea in February of 2021.
Are we all in?
Second.
Yeah, sounds great.
Which got us wondering, more than 2 years later, whatever happened? Do we have a list of names?
We're not nearly there. We do not have a by name list, and we need one.
Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Myron, an early proponent of the list, admits the project got off to a very slow start after city and county leaders signed off.
And then there was a lot of just sort of pausing and...
The initiative, called Built for Zero, is intended to collect real-time data, including the names of people experiencing homelessness and details about their history, so they can be matched with resources like mental health, addiction treatment, or rent assistance. Beth Sandor is with Community Solutions, which coordinates Built for Zero.
Like you go into an ER, like what information do you need to triage this person to the right intervention that will end their homelessness?
This detailed personal data helps communities know what's working and what's not. They can track if someone found housing or returned to the street. The idea is to make systems smarter by understanding exactly who you're helping and what they need. More than 100 communities around the country are participating in Built for Zero. Portland is one of the largest.
On average, we see it take communities 6 months to a year to get to quality data, depending on the size and complexity of their environment.
In April, the City County's Joint Office of Homeless Services released its first monthly data report focused on a specific homeless population, the chronically homeless. Currently, the program has a list of 2,800 people who are chronically homeless, which means they're disabled and have been homeless for at least a year or repeatedly over the last 3 years.
We're not trying to just build a list for the sake of a list. We're trying to get information to move people towards services. So
Lori Kelly of the Joint Office said they're working to create quality data and a system that works. That takes time.
The challenges around getting getting data is that they're people. So effectively, you're really needing to engage with human beings and make sure and understand what their needs are.
While the initial list is a start, Commissioner Myron warns it was created using data that already exists in a database that collects information from those seeking federally funded HUD services.
We're using our old lists. We're not reaching out to know who we don't know.
And that's the next step, according to those involved with the program. In the coming months, outreach workers will conduct surveys. They hope to add new names, including those who may not be in existing databases. As a result, the by name list of chronically homeless will grow, and in theory, more people living on the street will get the help they need.
Kyle joins me now. Very interesting story. How is this different, though, from the point-in-time count?
Right. So we've heard about the point-in-time count. It's a federally mandated head count, essentially, of the homeless population in our community. Occurs on a regular basis. There are a lot of critics, though, that say, A, the numbers aren't great. It undercounts the number of people on the street. And B, it doesn't really tell you much. It's only part of the story, whereas the by name count gives you detailed information about who's living on the street, what their needs are, and then it kind of follows them through the process because people are coming and going all the time. It monitors that, so you can see successes and even failures.
And having those metrics is super important because otherwise we're just throwing money away.
Right.
How's this working in other cities?
Yeah, so Built for Zero has a website where they talk about 105 communities that have implemented this program. Of those, 44 have seen what they describe as a measurable reduction in the homeless population. Now, the thing that I want to point out to people is this may not represent their entire homeless population because, like Portland, they focus on a subpopulation or a specific group, in this case, the chronically homeless. Some communities are looking specifically at veterans, for instance. So they may see a reduction in that very specific group of the homeless, and it may not necessarily reflect all the homeless population.
Yeah, but at least they know who they're dealing with,
Sure.
So that's a start. All right, great stuff. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it. Still to come on the story, the latest update on a new interstate bridge across the Columbia River includes light rail at a cost between $1.3 to $2 billion. just for the right light rail component. And now we're learning the city of Vancouver is preparing for a light rail transit hub with the potential purchase of a piece of land that fits the bill. What Vancouver's mayor is saying about it when the story returns.
Straight ahead at 6:30, after more than 3 years, the nationwide COVID-19 emergency is ending tomorrow. What it means for vaccination requirements and your access to testing and care. Plus, why the Oregon Speaker of the House is calling on one representative to resign his seat. And a major change to U.S. immigration policy is coming tomorrow. How misinformation targeting migrants is creating more confusion at the southern border. That's next at 6:30. We hope to see you then.
In the meantime, to the state of Washington now, where the city of Vancouver is seriously considering spending $12 million on a prime piece of downtown real estate. The big open lot would become the light rail transit center if the interstate bridge replacement project goes through. But as Tim Gordon explains, Vancouver's mayor says the land's a good deal no matter what happens.
It's an open lot with a lot of upside for the future of transportation in Vancouver, and the mayor likes the price.
The developer gave us quite a donation, so it'll be a $12 million investment.
$12 million for 3.18 acres, land that appraisers say is worth $18 to $20 million. At Evergreen and C Streets, it's on the east side of downtown, next to the Vancouver Community Library and some historic parts of the city. But it is also adjacent to I-5 and the planned Max light rail route along the interstate. You can see the route in yellow on this planned drawing for the interstate bridge replacement.
This will be the new transit mall where light rail stops, where all of our bus rapid transits come together, where our local buses come together.
Mayor Ann McInerney-Ogle says the city has been eyeing this property since 2007. It's been considered a good spot for a transit hub before with the failed Columbia River Crossing project. We talked to a few people visiting the library who liked the idea of it this time around.
This is so central to the city core. It seems like a good way to put together all the cool things that are in the area and really give people access to it.
As long as it's done safe and it's, secure and there's security of some sort, or that's thought about at least, being so close to where I bring my kiddos a lot, I think that's, I'm okay with it. And for the price in this area, if we can get to go across the bridge or go north or south, I'm happy with that.
City Council will consider the deal at a council meeting on Monday, but they've already been working on it, and the mayor believes it will be approved with the purchase of this land in June with $12 million in city funds in place.
And we'll be able to recoup that. But this is an opportunity for us to get things together, control the development of this particular site, a little over 3 acres, and then we'll work with IBR in the future. But that's our big concern right now. We need to make sure that Oregon understands this is a project that we desperately need.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Sounds like it's moving forward. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our collective story, well, that never ends. Be sure to tune in tomorrow, by the way, for a special edition of The Story focused on downtown Portland. In the meantime, be sure to stick around for the news at 6:30, and I'll see you tomorrow.